All right, what's up, guys? We're here, Southeastern 16, Friday night. Max Barr joins. And, of course, we were planning to do this SEC basketball reaction. There's not a lot of noteworthy games on tonight's slate, but as we told you guys, we were kind of got to do it as we could in the non-conference especially. So, yeah, we're going to talk about these games, and some are still ongoing, as we know. We'll get to as much as we can. Alabama and Arkansas State seem like they're trying to set a record for longest game in SEC history. 53 free throws max in the first half in that one. But I don't necessarily blame those two teams, Max. But anyways, let's quickly go through. Let's just go ahead and tell you about our friends at BetOnline because we got a lot to get into. We did not expect this many big topics. But as you guys know, if you were on social media today, it was a day for the SEC, to say the least. All right, BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. Earliest odds to in-game live betting. BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. Largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, plus the NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today. Get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Speaking of odds, Max, there are some odds changing with maybe a game in particular, and that's we will get to shortly. All right, right off the top. Here's what we're going to do, okay? If you were not online today at all and you have not, seen anything that's happened revolving around SEC basketball, we're just going to make this straight up, especially this first one, because, yes, there was a story today from about Todd Golden from the Alligator, Florida, and there's a story here, Jack Meyer, Max Tucker, UF basketball coach Todd Golden accused of sexual harassment and stalking. There is a link that we will put to this story. I will put it, Max, in the comments here for anyone that did not see it earlier. And what do we say, right? Until Florida issues a statement, unless we know more, as our guy Neil Blackman said to Max, which I will try to pull this up on Twitter. This is something where it's not surprising that you're not really getting a lot here. In terms of like public statements and those kind of things, given the fact, as Neil said, I'm going to find his exact words here. Title IX investigations proceed slowly and deliberately to protect complainant privacy and respondent due process. So, again, this is something where I have no idea when we'll get kind of the next info, involving this. But for now, we can't really add anything else because we really don't have anything else to add. I mean, these are clearly serious allegations. And again, I would suggest you read the story if you want the full info on it, Max. So,
yeah, extremely disappointing situation. But like Neil said, and I think it might have been him on the Florida Basketball Hour, but that main account also just kind of keeping Florida fans, posted on the, what we know now and how long this might, take to pan out. It was known for a little bit, I guess. But there's been no statement right yet, Blake? I believe still no statement.
Yeah, and I think look, I'm going to give you guys, too, the link to Neil's account because Neil does a great job. Of course, Florida Basketball Hour, but I'm going to give you Neil's account, too. Hopefully he won't mind me doing that. Of course, you can find him on Twitter, but he's got some good tweets on this situation, so I will put this here in the thread as well for you guys in the chat. You can copy and paste that or however it works in there. I don't know if you can click a link in that, but you can check out some of Neil's most recent tweets and he'll give you kind of a better perspective, probably from someone, again, who is very close to the program and also is an attorney, so he knows how these things work in terms of how these things sometimes can play out a bit. So, all right, so that's that. We know that is obviously a situation we will have our eye on here moving forward to see what happens there. Then, Max, another situation, again, not game-related, comes out this evening, and we will pull this up, Max, on Twitter if we can, and we'll just put this straight on the screen here. Here's what I'm going to do, Max. I'm going to send it to you in the chat, and I'll let you pull it up if you don't mind while I'm kind of dealing with this other stuff. So, let's throw that one on the screen. And, of course, we're talking about, and we'll get to your chats here in just a minute, talking about the actual games. We will get to those shortly. But, again, we were not expecting to have this kind of chaos to discuss right off the bat here. But we'll get into the game shortly. But, again, all right. So, the Auburn situation. And we're going to read this tweet, and we'll pull it up on the screen for you guys here from Jonathan Hardison. This is the story that started circulating, again, about an hour or two ago, I guess you could say now. And I'll read it for you if you can't see it on the screen here. It's probably going to be smaller on a mobile. But flight that appears to be Auburn men's basketball team headed to Houston, diverted back to Auburn this afternoon. Air traffic control audio we've obtained shows a pilot in that airspace telling air traffic control, we have a bunch of basketball players fighting. We've reached out to Auburn University and Auburn Police for confirmation or comment. That was also, Max followed up with other tweets and reports from Auburn beat writers. Jeff Goodman put out the tweet on it. Again, another situation we just don't know the full details on based on what we've seen to this point. But again, it's like, what in the world? Like, what is this? Like, we did the preview earlier for this Auburn-Houston game, and I was the only person to pick Auburn, by the way, guys, if you haven't watched it yet. So now I'm like, hang on a second, this isn't good. But again, we don't know the full details on this here. We'll wait to see. I know that we were expecting a statement from Auburn at some point tonight. Maybe we'll get that before we hop off. If you guys have already seen it, let us know. But I haven't seen anything as of now. Again, Max, my goodness, what's going on?
We're 5 days into the season. 5 days. What is going on?
It's an all-timer SEC week here so far. And like you said, we're 5 days in. And by the way, we haven't even gotten to the games yet where you've had, a couple games closer than maybe people would have expected. Max already knows. I told him, I said, Missouri is in a 10-point game right now with Howard. I know how this goes. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here, Max, because if Missouri loses this game to Howard, I think we've officially got a curse on somewhere. Someone put the curse on me after buying into Missouri after year one in the Dennis Gates era, because there'd be no excuse for this one. But we'll see how it plays out. So,
yeah, I don't sound the alarms just yet, Blake. Don't sound the alarms just yet.
Again, despite what you guys hear from me, I have sounded the alarms quite a bit for Missouri over the past little while. I may try to hide it sometimes, but trust me, I know it's not good in terms of having a team that's lost that many games in a row and they're trying to actually break the streak. So we'll get to everything else as it happened. Like we said, we'll see if anything comes in on the Auburn situation and all that. But at this point, speculation. I don't play that game, so we'll just see what comes out and everything. That's all we have kind of seen to this point. So, all right, Max, we are 8 minutes in, and now we get to talk about basketball games because that was not what we were expecting. But so off the top here, Alabama again is in a pretty tight game with Arkansas State as it stands right now.
A little back and forth.
I mean, I would say that's not surprising. We'll talk about that game at the end. Surely it'll be over by the time we finish this, but not stunned because, like we said, that's a good program. Pretty sure they were predicted to win that league, right, Max? I would think.
I don't know, but
I would think
got to be up there.
Right? Yeah. So that of course is something notable. A&M is going to get an easy win tonight. South Carolina bounced back with an 86-64 win over South Carolina State. Colin Murray-Boyles putting up those first-team All-SEC type stats.
Unreal.
We'll
Unreal
get to those
numbers.
in a second. Mississippi State puts up 101 tonight, Max. Are you back in?
Did you see Cam Matthews? Did you see Cam Matthews alley-oop?
I saw it. I knew you'd be proud of that one. And then
back.
Texas gonna beat Houston Christian. Where do you want to start? Let's start with Mississippi State because we're gonna talk about compare and contrast because Ole Miss had to hang on to beat Grambling, and so Mississippi State has now scored 95 and 101 in their first two games. We said Chris Jan's going to do it differently, and we're like, it's not going to be what you've seen the past couple of years. This team's going to play a little different. Well, Max, maybe they're the new Alabama, Florida, Kentucky of last year, where these guys are just going to go out and just score a plenty. Sometimes we'll see how the defense plays out, but I don't think that's a concern right now just yet either. So yeah, good stuff here from Mississippi State these first couple games.
Hey, where almost not every team, but a good amount of teams have at least showed a bit of weakness, a bit of well, what about this? What about that? These guys are steamrolling people, and I don't have the box score right in front of me, and I was only able to catch bits bits and pieces of that game, but I do know, I'm not going to try to get the stats exactly right, but all the guards got a little bit apiece. I think there was like 4 or 5 of them with double digits. I know Clary, Hubbard, Harris, Kugel.
Here, I'll give it to you.
It was like
if you want me to.
it was all of them.
Hubbard had 15. Kugel had 14. Clary had 11. Harris had 10, and you can put Melendez in there. He had 10. So, like, it's just
Yep.
it's
There you
just
go.
wild. Like, that's a wild split there for Mississippi State.
Yeah, well, they haven't been tested physically yet. So, I think what I'm looking for with this team is they've got 3 games coming up: Utah, SMU, UNLV. Oh, and Pitt also. There's going to be a game there where Cam Matthews is in foul trouble. There's going to be a game there where he's in foul trouble, and I'll be interested to see what it looks like then. But can't knock them for anything. They look incredible so far.
Yeah, that's what we said. It's different because you're changing kind of your approach. But we always say too, good coaches, the best coaches, like they play to their strengths and they don't just try to force, a certain system necessarily. And you recruit to a system, we get that. But like this is one where you could tell Jans knew that he was going to have a different team, and he said as much. Like and they've embraced it so far. 2 games in, again, we love to overreact here. It's week 1, but you can definitely see some things in this Mississippi State team with this guard play so far. A lot to like. So on the flip side of that, Max, what do you take away from Ole Miss 66, Grambling 64, and Grambling had a free throw at the end to try to get the bounce there, but someone left early, so they got a lane violation on the final play. So, you never know how that stuff can play out, but this was probably not the performance we were looking for from Ole Miss in terms of like supporting them as an early top 25 team. Stop me if you heard this one before, Max. They didn't shoot it well. Boy, it seems to be a theme for some SEC teams right now. 6 of 26 from 3. They shot 35% from the floor. Is this just one of those games, or is like many teams, despite Ole Miss being ranked, they still are probably a work in progress, just like some of these other teams are that we talked about.
Yeah, a little bit of a head scratcher with Mikal Brown-Jones only getting 5 minutes. Wasn't expecting that. But I'm kind of worried a little bit because of what the problems were last year. It's the same thing. They get out rebounded by Grambling State. What was the problem all last? They would just get crushed on the boards, and they haven't answered that yet. I thought Brown-Jones would kind of be in a little bit of a 2-man game up there with Malik Dia. You got Brakefield in there as well. They'd have multiple guys, 6'7", 6'8", 6'8". Not seeing the rebounding response there. And then, like it was with Ole Miss last year, they're going to have some games where they make 14 threes, and they're just lighting it up, and they look fun and fast, and the ball's popping around the perimeter. And then they're going to have games where they shoot 23% and win by 2 against Grambling State.
Yeah. Well, and look, Carlos, you know this too from watching our stuff. Like, I just don't put any stock in preseason polls. Like, I think they're there to get people excited and give us something to talk about, but they just don't mean anything, especially after week 1. Like, how many times that happened over the years where it's just like you completely change your opinion on a team after you see their first couple games. And again, that's just, I don't put a lot of stock into that. I will say, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you want to feel a little bit better about this performance. Grambling was picked to win the SWAC. I know, guys. Everyone will say, well, what does that mean? But again, they're picked to win the league. So, if you're going to say, well, we just didn't have our best game, we played a team that's expected to win their league, it is what it is. But we'll see. I mean, Grambling turned it over. That's the thing, is like Grambling turned it over 22 times and still had a chance to win the game at the end. So, yeah, we'll see what happens here with Ole Miss. I think they're another team, as we talked about, Max. As we look at that schedule, I mean, you brought it up before. It's just, what are we really going to learn about this team? I don't know. Like, maybe this is what, maybe this is kind of that learning experience, is where we start to say, all right, man, they don't play the greatest non-conference schedule. But I will say this, too. We say that.
I got a few.
BYU's in there. The Louisville game, I think, where Louisville is now, I think they'll be better by the time, and they may get a signature win tomorrow against Tennessee. We'll find out. They got the game against Memphis too, and so it's not the worst non-conference schedule. But I think, again, if we remember what happened last year, it's kind of that deja vu thing where you're like, okay, look how good they were in the non-conference last year, how many games they won. They won some close games. But what do we learn about them before we get to SEC play? That's the big question for the Rebels.
Speaking of Louisville, real quick, did you see the line came out for that Tennessee game?
Was it 1.5? 1 or 1.5?
1.
Yeah. That worries me.
Woo!
You may have had the right call on that one, because we said it. I mean, I picked Tennessee. I think Chris picked Tennessee. You picked Louisville. Like, I hate this spot.
Not confident.
No, I don't think any of our picks were confident in those 3 games we previewed today. And by the way, guys, if you didn't check those out, we did do previews for Tennessee, Louisville, Arkansas, Baylor, and Auburn, Houston, which take what I said about the Auburn, Houston game with a grain of salt as of right now, in case something's changed. But
imagine you said that in the preview. Like, guys, I'm taking Auburn, but barring any flight mishaps.
What if I would have said that?
You know?
Yeah. What if I said, you know what? Barring this from happening. It's just, boy, yeah, what a wild day it's been there for sure. All right, so Max, I told you this Missouri Howard game is getting closer and closer. Like, I know how this goes. Like, I am just, what am I going to do, Max? Like, if Howard wins this game, I think I will have to just, officially, I'll have to cut the contract. Like, the contract will have to be, don't you think?
Conversations are going to have to be had.
Yeah. I think there's no doubt. I think I'm going to need to change clients if that happens. I didn't want to do it after last year.
Up 10.
Yeah, so we'll see. Anyways, all right, so let's talk about a couple other things here. South Carolina, we mentioned them a minute ago. They bounced back. Of course, they had the disappointing loss earlier in the week, and they bounced back 86-64. We mentioned kind of teasing it. Colin Murray-Boyles was, who we thought he would be. I mean, he was fantastic in this game. 19 points, 16 rebounds, had 4 assists to 7 of 8 from the floor for him here. Maybe the bigger things is what else were you going to get from South Carolina after, like we said, a very disappointing performance? And I think that's what I most took away. I didn't watch the start to finish, but I caught quite a bit of this. Jacoby Wright had the kind of game he's going to need to have, I think, if they're going to be successful. Same thing with Thomas.
I think he's their guy in the backcourt right now.
Yeah. I mean, they still turn the ball over a little bit too much for my liking. They had 13 turnovers, but, again, sometimes that can happen in a game that's out of hand and those kind of things. But sometimes this just happens in week 1. You get the game like you saw earlier in the week. I don't want to go too far in the wrong direction with South Carolina, but again, there was a reason why we were just kind of a little more wait and see after obviously a tremendous year last year. And I think we're still kind of in that wait and see mode for them, even with a bounce back 22-point win here.
I'll tell you what, I think they probably drop Indiana, probably have a good game against Xavier, probably drop Clemson. It's going to look a little rough, but I'm telling you, I like this team as a team to get better, and then come February, it's going to be like this team defends. They've got a solid little rotation. Right now, I feel like the backcourt rotation is a little all over the place. If after, the course of the non-conference and maybe even the first month of the SEC season, I really feel like there's some pieces here that if he moves them around the right way, South Carolina can be a really annoying team to go and play.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, Howard just cut it to 4.
Oh gosh!
I told you this is coming. I told you before we hit record. I said
you did.
I know how this goes. Like, I, for some reason, have done something that has it's caused this 20+ point losing streak for the Missouri Tigers after a banner year 2 seasons ago. And I knew coming into this game, I'm like, this is going to be like pulling teeth, like to see how this game plays out. Even though Missouri was a 20-point favorite, something like that. I don't remember exactly what the number was.
But I think it was like 18, 19.
Yeah, well. Anyways, all right. So I will have my eye very close on this the rest of the way.
They're 2 of 20 from 3.
Dude, what did we say? We're like, as much as I want to hype Missouri up, I said the thing that scared me, just like it does with Arkansas, a completely different scenario, but I just don't think they can shoot. And you and I said that months ago. And we're like, What happens? They just cannot shoot the ball. And so,
well, you know what we said? We said Jacob Cruz.
No, we did say that.
That hasn't happened yet.
Hey, hold on a second, Auburn fan 123. Now, we appreciate the comment earlier, you telling us the best college basketball show out there. Now, let's make it clear, okay? Ever since I became a fan, they suck. That's not true, because I was a fan before. When Dennis Gates took the job, that's when I started buying in. Because, again, everybody was like, well, come on, guys, why do we hire this guy? And it worked out in year one, right? Like, everything went great. So I wouldn't say right when I jumped on board. It was more so something happened after that first year was almost like, you know what, we're going to give you this year. And then I don't know. I have no idea what's happened since that point. So
Has not gone to plan.
It's not gone according to plan. That's all I can say. All right. So that game is a 4-point game at the under 4. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that one. What else we got, Max?
Arkansas State is not going away. They haven't cut it down to like 4-2 in a while, but they haven't allowed Alabama to stretch it out past, 10, 12, and now it's sitting at 6 points.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
just hanging around. They're just hanging around.
That's the thing, right? We say it when you let teams hang around, not ideal. I'll tell you this game's about to go final. Texas is going to get a 30-point win or so against Texas Christian. Trey Johnson, I think I'd like to have my awards back because I'm going to tell you right now, unless something just goes horribly wrong, the freshman of the year is going to be Trey Johnson, I think. So, I mean, once again, if I look at the score here, what do you have, 28 tonight? 28 on 11 of 18 shooting. Now, keep in mind, too, all 5 starters in double figures. You like to see that if you're Texas. But, Max, maybe the most notable thing is we did get the report, what was that, either yesterday or this morning? It's been a blur. Jermon Mark out indefinitely. We have no idea when he's going to be back.
No clue.
That is big for Texas's long-term outlook. But for now, you got Trey Johnson looking like an absolute stud. And we'll just see how that plays out. Because, again, I think when you look at their schedule, let's find it here. Let me pull up Texas' schedule. I don't think we talked about theirs a whole lot to this point. But, I mean, yeah, they're going to – that's right. We did talk about this a little bit. Syracuse, they got a road game at NC State, home game against UConn. But that's really about it for their non-conference schedule because they just played that Ohio State game. So, indefinitely, that can mean anything. And so – yeah, I don't really know what to expect, but without Tremont Mark, obviously I think it brings their ceiling down a little bit, but you got a guy like Trey Johnson. Look out.
Blake, you just said you'd like to change your freshman of the year pick. I'm not going all the way out on this limb.
Oh, I know where you're going.
If he keeps this up, he is in that conversation. Yeah. If he keeps it up. I mean, because you just look at his stat line from the first game. He had the 5 rebounds, the 4 assists, the block, the 2 steals, 29 points, now 20, however many you said, points. Guy could be averaging like 20 points a game.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, look, watching him play, like he is as advertised. And I mean, we could tell coming in, and that's why that was one of the reasons why I think I was very high on Texas. I'm like, okay, I see what this guy can be. And you combine him with Mark, and you see some of the other things. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that was one of the big reasons why. If you were going to be high on Texas, which you guys know I was a little bit higher, people were trying to talk me back on that. And it was because of the front court, which Max brought up some good points about the front court. But, again, we're 2 games in. I just think it's like – I'm trying not to just overreact to everything, but it is like the individual players. Like a Trey Johnson is a no-brainer, right? Like it's as obvious as can be. Like he's going to be one of the best players in the league. So
Texas could be entering SEC play 1-loss team. If you want to say between Syracuse, NC State, and UConn, you drop one of those.
Could be, yeah. All right, let's see what else we're going to have here. Let's see. Let's go with Texas A&M for a second, and then we'll turn it over to you guys. Because, by the way, Alabama and Arkansas State, they're now tied with 6.5 to go.
My stream keeps freezing. Keep refreshing it.
Well, I'm keeping an eye on 2 games. Everyone knows that. I'm keeping an eye on Missouri to see what happens here against Howard. But Arkansas State
stretched it out.
Well, let's be careful here, Max. Let's be careful. It's not over until it's over. This team has lost 20-something in a row. Don't you put that on me and say they've stretched this thing out. There is no such thing as a safe lead until this game goes final.
You didn't hear anything.
I didn't hear anything from you. We're going to cut that out on the replay. But by the way, Auburn fan 123, we did discuss the Auburn playing situation a minute ago. We may share a few more thoughts on that in a minute, but we're waiting on a statement from Auburn. We don't know when that's going to happen. But okay, so quickly we'll do Texas A&M, and then that'll leave just the games that are still going, and we'll see how these finish to go here. But Texas A&M, another team who bounces back with a win. They get an 87-55 win over Texas A&M-Commerce, who is listed as East Texas A&M on ESPN. So combine them together, call them whichever one you want. The Lions come up short against the Aggies. Max, takeaways from this one? Thoughts?
None.
I mean, I don't either. I watched some of this, and I'm like, I don't really know what to take away.
It just was. I don't want to, talk down on any team, but Commerce is 357 in Ken Palm, and it looked like it, like within a minute. And no Phelps. I was if Phelps played, maybe I'd have a comment on how Phelps looked within the offense, but I'm not taking anything away.
So Phelps did play in this game, right?
I don't think so.
I think he didn't he? Yeah, I know I saw him out there.
No way.
Yeah, he was in. He had 18. He led them in scoring.
I checked at like halftime.
Well, I think it's so. Which box score were you using? Were you using the ESPN? Because ESPN's scoreboard has been a mess in week 1.
You know why? It's because he's all the way down at the bottom.
Yeah, he's listed at the very bottom.
You got to be kidding me.
Well, I mean, but it does tell you something. Like
and he played great, didn't he?
Proves your point, right? He's 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals. So proves your point. The most efficient guy offensively for that team. So I'll tell you this. They only shot 15 threes. I like to see that for Texas A&M. I feel like that was the magic number last year. So, wait, hold on. Is this true, Brandon? Did they literally change their name yesterday? Are you serious? Wow. See, I was looking that up, and I'm like, wait a second. Everything, the entire preseason, we've looked at these first week games. I'm like, everything is said Texas A&M Commerce. And then I see East Texas A&M popping up everywhere. So, fascinating. Very fascinating. Tell you what else is fascinating.
What is going on this first week of college basketball?
Everything's going on. What
in the world?
We got a certain referee out there pissing off Alabama fans. Because this game is just it's getting wild. Yeah, it's getting wild. All right. You guys let us know what you want to talk about. This is way more chaotic than we expected, I think, for this stream. But Alabama and Arkansas State are going to go maybe to the wire here.
We did not expect that.
We didn't. And I think it's just and wait a minute, who's not playing for Arkansas State? Somebody was out too. Remind me in the
I know the name. I can see his face. I can literally see his face.
I saw it earlier. I'll look it up while you're talking.
Oh my gosh.
I'll look.
Gosh, I can see his face. Yeah, but Alabama actually got out to like a 12, maybe 14 point lead within like the first 10 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, yep, I'll switch over to another SEC game, see what's going on." And they just have not. Well, we were saying it was 6 like 5 minutes ago, and they were just hanging around, and then you miss a few shots. Yeah, but Grant Nelson doing what Grant Nelson does. That's my.
By the way, quick update, and we'll talk about you and Grant Nelson's mustache in a minute. But Rothstein did put out, which we expected, but like it is interesting that at least it's being stated that the Auburn-Houston game will remain on as scheduled. So I think we knew that, but like, isn't it wild that we're talking about having to put out tweets where the game is still being played? I just don't even know what to say.
I want to see what the spread is now because it opened at 2.5.
I was going to say, I think, well, last I looked at it, which was about an hour ago, it was 4.5. I think it was about a 2-point swing. So, and it may be higher now. You just don't know. I haven't looked everywhere else, but let me see if I can find it. Why am I forgetting the Arkansas State player? Alabama fans, you're in the chat. Remind me, why can I not? I know this guy. Like, why am I forgetting?
I want to say Freddie Hicks. That's what I'm thinking in my head, but I think he was a senior last year. It might be Freddie Hicks though.
I don't know why I can't find it. Someone will let me know. But we got a lot going on here. So, all right, what else have we got? You guys weigh in.
BetOnline doesn't have the odds up.
Oh, they don't?
No.
Interesting. I'm surprised that some of those. I'm surprised that it wasn't pulled, the line for Auburn, Houston.
Mark Sears has shot 14 free throw attempts. I mean, that shouldn't even be allowed.
No. All right, Max. I feel good in saying this, all right? Are you ready? For the first time. Hold on, let me make sure I got it right.
Yeah. Hey, you are
you know
right.
what's coming.
You
know
are
what's
right.
coming. Hang on a second. For the first time since December, are you kidding me? Since December the 30th, 2023, the Missouri Tigers in the W column, they're going to beat Howard here. And they wound up pushing it away a little bit, which I like. Just push the number out a little bit for me.
Oh, yeah. It looks like they dominated.
they cruised to the 15-point victory or whatever it's going to wind up being.
Yep.
I mean, in all seriousness, again, guys, you guys know I have my fun with Missouri because of the Dennis Gates thing that we started a couple years ago. But at some point, when you've lost this many games in a row, like you just have to win a game somewhere. And it may not be the prettiest thing, but like now, everyone doesn't get to talk about this, right, Max? Like we're on to something else. And I know, by the way, my stream's going to kind of slow down a little bit for a second because I'm loading one of the games, but just win a game.
Missouri, they had Georgia absolutely on the ropes, doing the rope-a-dope last year in the SEC tournament. They were up by like 5 with 3 minutes left and crumbled and crashed and burned. So they could have had this win a lot earlier. They had many opportunities. Statistically speaking, like mathematically speaking, with that amount of like 5-point, 4-point margins they had, unbelievable that they didn't win a game this long.
I'm not a math guy. You guys understand this by now. But if you ran the probability on Missouri losing that many games in a row, the way that they lost quite a few of those games, my guess is like 0.1% would be the mathematical probability that would happen again. So at least I will push that, but they got to play better basketball. And the biggest worry now is what we talked about a minute ago. My goodness, if they're shooting 3 of 22 from 3, that is a big problem. So, and it won't be that bad every night, but Max, that is the one weakness we were scared about with this team. Thinking if they're going to make that jump, they got to rebound the ball and they got to be able to shoot it better and play better defense. I don't know that they've improved significantly in any of those areas as of right now through week 1, but I think the shooting is still going to be the one that probably lags behind the most, just based on what we've seen.
When we were doing our kind of summer interviews with different, beat writers from different teams and stuff, we had Drew King from Missouri, and you asked the question like you did for all of them. You said, we've been propping the team up and talking about these players, but if it goes wrong, if it does go south, why? Drew King right away, shooting right away. So it's no secret. This was kind of the only, the main concern here coming into the season, but we kept saying, but they got Jacob Cruz. That has not connected yet. So here we are.
Well, I appreciate everyone in the chat. Trying to uphold what reputation I have left here. So we all pick our teams. Max has been doing a little bit better than I have. Chris seems to, I don't know why, but Chris seems to always get the best of us when it comes to picking.
He always gets the best team.
He just seems to, I think he's got some inside information or something that we don't know about. I think I don't want to say anything. I think he's got some intelligence somewhere that we just don't know.
He just waits for us to pick our guys.
I think he does too. I think so. Yeah. But we'll see about that. Thank you to Mother Carol, who, by the way, told us on Twitter she was going to stay up past her bedtime tonight, and we said Max is too. So you two got that in common. $5 super chat in honor of the Missouri Tigers and my faith in Dennis Gates and Missouri to finally get a win. So there you go. Appreciate that, Mother Carol. As Brandon says here, it was destiny. It sure was. Win over Howard. Destiny. There you go.
Mother Carol, I'm right there with you. I was almost late to the stream because I was picking up a Diet Coke. So I get the caffeine. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point here from Auburn fan too. We know we don't like to speak ill of Chris, who's not on the stream right now, but he does. He likes to pick a bunch of teams so that way he can always be involved. And look at this. Auburn fan 123 coming in with one of the biggest super chats we've had of the season thus far. 1999. What happened in 1999 in SEC basketball? Let me find that for you. That's a great segue here. I was on Missouri's KenPom page.
How did you just masterful? Who was running the SEC in 1999?
Let me find this for you.
I got it right here on KenPom.
Right. Listen, Hurt Life Rick, let me tell you. Our preseason rankings, they never go well. Ask South Carolina fans from last year. LSU was in the perfect spot this year. They're destined. It was destiny for me with Missouri. LSU's destiny now to finish in the top 5 in the league because we picked them last. So, all right, let's get back to the super chat. We're going back to 1999 real quick as we're letting Alabama, who is pulling away a little bit here. I hesitate to say that because Arkansas State's they're not going away just yet. But all right, 1999, Max, in the SEC. Well, I know Auburn had a great year that year. I was going to say that's the one I put together. So let's see. And by the way, if you're just joining, we did talk about the Auburn plane thing earlier, and we don't really have any new information as of right now. So, okay. So in 1999, Max, there was still the East and West division in SEC basketball.
Yep.
Auburn 29-4, 14-2. That was, not surprising because they were just dominant that year, one of the best teams in the country under Cliff Ellis. The Kentucky Wildcats were 28-9 in the East Division, but it was actually Tennessee who won the East Division, 21-9 record overall. So I think it actually is. KenPom have the stats too. Yeah. So by the way, if you don't know a difference between like the SEC now and then, the SEC was the top 15 in the country in three-point shooting in 1999. It's just so different now. We just don't have a lot of good shooting teams. But there you go. So the SEC dueling their way to multiple 20-win teams in 1999. So, all right, what else we got, Max?
We have got Alabama under 3 minutes, up by 9 now. So I'm not calling it yet, but it got a little scary for a second there. What's with the SEC and teams hanging around?
I felt like the way things started on Monday, I think we just knew that this was how this was going to go. Because for some reason, like this is, as we said, I don't remember when we talked about this, but this has been a theme for the SEC in recent years. Like missed opportunities in non-conference play has been a theme. Mm-hmm. And I think you can make a lot of arguments for maybe why that is, because I think, as we've seen, like I feel like the transfer portal era, when you are a team like the SEC, or excuse me, you're a conference like the SEC, where you have so many teams that are bringing in a lot of new players, I think sometimes we just take it for granted where it's like, okay, they have the best players, but it's always the same theme we came back to with Cal at Kentucky.
Yep.
He always had the best players a lot of the time during his best years, but it was the same question we asked every single year. How is the chemistry? How do these guys play together? And I feel like, again, sometimes it's easy just to look at teams on paper and say, oh, that guy's great at point guard. That guy's a great, wing defender. This guy's a great center. But how do they all actually fit together? And how do they play together? Like, those are the things that I feel like we don't know. Unless you're watching practice every day for these teams in the summer, I feel like it's really hard to know the answer to those questions. And that's why I feel you have some of this that happens. And we also, it goes the other way too, Max, right? Like on the transfer. You have guys who are transferring to schools where, it's a lot more open than it used to be. You don't just have the 10 best players in the country going to Duke or North Carolina or Kentucky or Kansas or whatever. You got a lot of great players in a lot of spots because NIL or playing time or more opportunity. Like, there's so many different things in play now. And so I'm not making excuses for the SEC because, as we said, they've been a little disappointing in conference play in recent years. But you just wonder what are the biggest reasons why. I don't think you can just pinpoint one. I think there's multiple reasons why.
Yeah, and then you think back to last year, you had Tennessee lose like those 3 big games in a row, all by a little bit. You had Alabama lose those big games in a row, all by a little bit. You had Auburn open up the season against Baylor, barely lose. It wasn't like, geez, the SEC stinks. We're getting blown out. It was like just kept coming up short in the prime time. When there's only 5 games on a Saturday night, like a Thursday night. SEC's got the best game of the night, comes up 4 points short, and then that's the talk of college basketball media is that same old rhetoric of the SEC, underperforming.
Yeah. Well, and the biggest games are yet to come because, like we said, Saturday, 3 huge games for the SEC. Kentucky Bucknell is interesting too. But I mean, those are. It's funny. We talked about our picks, and I told you after we recorded, I'm like, Max, I picked the SEC to win all 3 of these games. I said, we know what's going to happen. They're going to go 0-3 because, quite frankly, the numbers suggest they're underdogs in 2 of those games, and Tennessee's only a 1.5 favorite or a point favorite against Louisville. So, I don't know. But anyways, that's what I was like. We got some Auburn fans checking in, including Donovan. Why, Blake? Why? What are you referring to, Donovan? I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean, why? Why what? So, oh, okay. Now we know. He's mad because I picked Auburn. So instead of the Southeastern 16 kiss of death, we've somehow now, this phenomenon, Max, has grown to when we don't do it, then you start having these kind of things happen. So
there's a lot of mental gymnastics that goes into it. There's a lot.
I think we should start making Chris pick last. What do you think? Let's see if he can be in the hot seat as the last pick on each of our predictions.
I think I usually get it wrong because I have to go first. And just by that, it doesn't work out the right way.
Well, again, Donovan, keep the faith. This may unite. And again, we don't listen. I keep saying this. We don't know the full details here. Okay, I know people are talking. It's Twitter. I'm not. Give me an actual report. Give me a statement from the Tigers themselves. I'm not going there because I don't know what exactly happened just yet. So,
whatever it is, it's not ideal to happen right before you play the number 1 team in the nation. So
maybe they were so fired up that they could not contain themselves for the opportunity to go play Kelvin Sampson's Houston Cougars in the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas.
Chomping at the bit.
That's my thought here, Max. So
they're so riled up after that Vermont game. They're so ready to go to this Toyota Center, play in the NBA arena. Couldn't contain it. I like that.
That's all I got to go on right now. So, by the way, we'll wrap up here in just a few minutes because it looks like Alabama's going to hold on for the win. But I'll give you some quick stats from this Missouri-Howard game for those that want that. So we mentioned earlier Missouri did not shoot the 3 well, 3 of 22 from 3. But they did shoot 31 free throws, Max. They made 26 of them. That's good, 84%.
Oh, hey. Dennis will be happy about that.
Yeah. Rebounding, they won the rebounding battle. That's, I hate to just go on stats, but watching some of this game, it was not the prettiest game at times, but that's notable. Tamar Bates leads the way with 17 points. Mark Mitchell had 16. That's what you want to see from Mitchell, 16 points, 8 rebounds in this game. 8 of 8 from the free throw line. That's a big bonus. Robinson scores 13 off the bench. I think Anthony Robinson clearly going to be a big factor.
He's a piece. Yep.
Yeah. Tony Perkins, 4 points, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, 4 rebounds. I think we know they're going to need more from him in terms of scoring, I think. Boateng got the start. It's interesting, right? We said, I think Missouri's rotation is still a work in progress. So, curious.
Yeah, I mean, Boateng didn't even play last game.
Yeah.
So, for now, I mean, who knows what the backcourt is going to look like, in a few games. I have no clue. This rotation's up in the air. But Mark Mitchell, 16 and 8. That's nice to see. They needed that out of him.
Yeah. Sam, jumping in. Missouri's better than what people think this year. Let's hope so, Sam. We tried to say that, but it didn't look the best in game 1. they did play well for good parts of game one, but just could not finish. And in this game, probably got a little close for comfort for Missouri fans. Yeah, probably not what they want to see towards the close, but they wound up winning by 15. So, all right, Max, Alabama, and Brooks jumping in here. Yeah, we did talk Mississippi State earlier. We talked about a lot of thoughts on them. And just quickly before we finish up with Alabama, Power Rings will come out on Monday. That'll be the
Monday.
plan. Yeah.
Yep.
And remember, too, we will be doing live stream tomorrow night, too. We'll have a football live stream here on the channel, as always, but we'll be doing a basketball one, too, to recap the day's action with the 3 big games in Kentucky and Bucknell.
Based on the way that today went, just the past, 15 hours, I don't even want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't even...
Mentally preparing for 0-3 in the big 3 games. I'm already mentally prepared for that. So is the SEC overrated?
Yeah.
All the tweets are coming. I already know it. So, all right. Let's talk about this Alabama game. So we've been watching some of it while we've been going on here. I mean, like we said, I think if you came into this film like Alabama was going to win by 50-something again, you probably didn't respect Arkansas State, which, that might be on you, because is it still one of those where you would have liked to see Alabama play a bit better? Sure, but I mean, again, too, I look at the first half, and I'm like, 53 free throw first half, there's 31 free throw shot or whatever, or 53 fouls, excuse me. Or, no, wait, sorry. 53 free throws, 31 fouls, I think it was, in the first half. Game just kind of got a little... that was a lot of this game, and he wound up having a 74, 75 free throws, I think, shot by the time this thing's over. Alabama goes 6 of 31 from 3. Sears goes... How many nights is Mark Sears going to go 0 of 5 from 3, right?
And Wrightsell's going to go 1 for 9.
Right, yeah. I didn't see that at the bottom, yeah.
Wrightsell's one of the best shooters in the country. 1 for 9? That's probably his worst line the whole year. Probably.
1 of 14 between those two guys. That's not going to happen often.
Nope.
And so, if I'm Alabama, am I panicking? No. And if I tell you something, it would worry me a little bit. We talk about getting the free throw line a lot. As it stands right now, they're probably going to shoot a couple more before this thing's over, but 25 of 40 from the free throw line. I mean, that's also...
And they missed a lot of them early.
It's not good.
Started terrible from the line.
Yeah. So, again, I don't read a ton into this game. I feel like it was one against a respectable mid-major opponent that, you would think Alabama wouldn't overlook them since it's their former assistant coach, and you would bet that Nate Oates, got them prepared for everything that Brian Hodgson was going to do, and give Arkansas State credit. Like, they never went away. Like we said, they always kind of stayed there, had an opportunity, but Alabama's going to get the win, and now we look. I mean, you start looking ahead for Alabama. Play McNeese on Monday. Will Wade's team ready to go. They got the win over. I know Max, you saw Will Wade's team getting the win over Biblical Studies on Thursday. So keeping the faith there at McNeese, and Alabama's going to play McNeese on Monday, at Purdue next Friday, and the gauntlet has begun at that point. So,
what is it? The 7-game gauntlet?
My gosh.
Yeah, brutal.
All right. Anything else, Max? Again, guys, we're going to hop off here shortly. I know we wanted to have more thoughts on Alabama, Arkansas State. It just wound up going way longer than we expected due to the free throws. So we'll circle back around on that. We are doing a live stream tomorrow night, so we'll add in some additional thoughts. I'm going to go back and watch kind of the second half of this game too, since we've basically just kind of been keeping an eye on it as we record through the stream. So I'll probably have some additional thoughts on it tomorrow when we do the stream tomorrow night. Anything else, Max, in the chat? I know there's some things that people were asking. We don't want to ignore everyone, but we were kind of just giving some thoughts here.
I am fully ready to wake up tomorrow morning to a headline: Auburn basketball forced to travel to Texas by cargo barge. Whole team is I don't know what's going to happen. Nothing will surprise me anymore.
Well, it was a Friday in the SEC. Luckily, no huge upsets. So that was at least something if you want to look at it from that standpoint. And by the way, if you're joining in Mississippi State, we did talk about Mississippi State earlier. You can go back after we finish this here in a second. Check out our thoughts on that game with Mississippi State. Josh Hubbard, Player of the Year. Of course, Thomas. Come on. Of course.
I picked him first team. He's my first teamer.
He did. So we'll talk more about Josh Hubbard. By the way, quickly too, Mother Carol, when is our big announcement? We're still working on that. I think, blame me. We got the timing wrong on when we wanted to kind of put that out. So you can blame me on that. We're still putting the finishing touches on some things. So
testing processes.
We're actually getting a lot more. There's probably going to be multiple tiers to this thing. So this announcement, when we finally make it, in terms of like, may not just be one thing. There may be multiple things that we're cooking up here. So we'll get there.
It's a big season.
No worries.
It's a big season.
It's a big season. We got a long way to go. So I don't know, though. We may be checked out of SEC basketball if some of these things
Yeah.
continue. So root for a good Saturday, folks. I guess unless you're an Alabama fan, you're not going to root for Auburn. But root for a good Saturday in the league. We need it here at Southeastern 16. But all right. Hey, we appreciate you guys watching on a Friday night. We had over 150 of you in here watching this. Pretty good stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you will watch the replay. Shout out to Sarah. Yes, finally, Missouri won. We touched on that. Yes, that's all we were looking for, right? We just needed a win. After that many losses in a row, you'll take a win anyway. You can get it. Mark Mitchell, great game. We will talk more about the Tigers moving forward too. Donovan,
I can already feel the momentum. I can feel the momentum.
It's swinging, isn't it? I felt it too,
Yeah.
Max. I don't want to be the only one, but I feel the momentum swinging already for the Missouri Tigers. So Donovan says he has the inside info on the Auburn travel situation. Well, if you do, can you please DM one of us on Twitter and let us know? There. So, yep. All right, guys. We appreciate you. Come back tomorrow night. You can get the double header. You can get like the movie theater twofer. You can get like back-to-back screenings. You get basketball and you get football here at Southeastern 16 tomorrow night live here on the channel. So we appreciate you guys watching. As always, hit that subscribe button on your way out. Hit the like button as well. Super chats, all that good stuff. Come back tomorrow. We'll talk more basketball. Big Saturday in the SEC.
Big.
Both sports. Come on and join us. All right, guys. Appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Southeastern 16.